There's a popular mantra within the Disney theme park community whenever the company announces a new expansion or modification, where fans ask if this change would align with, quote, what Walt would want. And when they inevitably dislike said change, it quickly devolves into Walt is rolling in his grave. Lately, it seems that there's been so many controversial changes that Walt has basically turned into an endlessly rotating 7-Eleven hot dog. Recently, I've come to notice a new variation of the what Walt wants phrase. That being, what would Joe Rohde think? For those unfamiliar with the Imagineering icon, Rohde's been the mastermind behind a myriad of classic Disney attractions and experiences, like the Adventurers Club, Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, and Pandora: The World of Avatar. In fact, for over 20 years, Rohde served as the main visionary behind Animal Kingdom's evolution, instilling the park with its heart, soul, and values.
The value of nature itself as a treasure that cannot be traded, and the value of adventure, of the great change that happens when we step out into something new, something unfamiliar, and the value of a personal call to action, that a story told by Disney can be a story about you, and what you think and what you are going to do.
Now, for those of you not deeply entrenched in the Disney theme park fandom, you may be wondering, that's great, but what does this have to do with Zootopia? Well, Disney just held their semi-annual D23 Expo, which culminated with their Parks and Resorts panel where Chairman Josh D'Amaro revealed what new experiences are coming to Disney parks in the semi-near future. Or in this year's case, the lack thereof. The rather underwhelming panel included a bizarre blue sky segment where several potential expansions were tentatively announced. This hesitation might have been due to the company's recent track record of announcing major attractions only to cancel them a few years later, or maybe it was because almost a third of Imagineering has quit or retired due to its operations being moved from Glendale to Orlando. Either way, Daddy D'Amaro made sure to explicitly say that these plans were only a fun what if, and not to take them too seriously. So the entire fandom erupted into chaos anyway. And by far, the most controversial announcement to emerge from this segment was Dinoland USA's transformation into a Moana/Zootopia themed land. Diz Twitter became flooded with messages lamenting the loss of Dinosaur and the demise of Animal Kingdom's core values. Possibly the worst take I saw was a since-deleted tweet adapting Niemöller's famous First They Came poem about the Nazis' rise to power for defunct theme park attractions. The few outlandish takes aside, there is certainly truth to these sentiments. The main difference between Walt and Joe Rohde, and the reason I bring him up, is that we do know what he thinks about Disney's latest announcements. Despite leaving the company in early 2021, Rohde has remained a vocal part of the community and continues to keep Animal Kingdom's three core concepts alive. Besides conflicting with the park's overarching message, the Zootopia expansion has also reignited the ongoing debate between original versus intellectual property or IP-based attractions, with many lamenting the company's recent shift to solely non-original properties. The park's last attraction with an original theme was Expedition Everest in 2006, and wouldn't you know it, Rohde also oversaw that project as well.
All of the architecture of the Tibetan Himalayas is symbolic. Every color has meaning. Some people think the black around the windows is to actually heat the wall up so that hot air is drawn into the building and keeps it warm.
Animal Kingdom presents an interesting dichotomy between an authentic celebration of the wonders of the natural world and Michael Eisner's desire to compete with Busch Gardens. Though no matter what his park was, it was definitely Despite its expansive 500 acres, Animal Kingdom was arguably Disney World's sparsest park when it first opened in 1998, with only 9 attractions, 4 of which were live shows. Those being Kilimanjaro Safaris, the Discovery Riverboats, It's Tough to Be a Bug, Festival of the Lion King, Pocahontas and Her Forest Friends, Journey into the Jungle Book, Rafiki's Planet Watch, Countdown to Extinction, later known as Dinosaur, and Flights of Wonder, bringing the total of original non-IP based attractions to 3. Possibly 4 if you include the Wildlife Express train to Rafiki's Planet Watch, though I would argue that's more transportation based than an out-and-out attraction. And the riverboats also make things hazy with the inclusion of the Aladar animatronic. This also isn't including the trails or animal exhibits, which were arguably the park's main draw, but those are near impossible to shove an IP into. And it's clear Disney was so desperate to include IP in the park that they picked films only tangentially related to animals, including one that hadn't even been released yet. Though both the Pocahontas show and It's Tough to Be a Bug did make an effort to include lessons on conservation within their respective presentations. In the years that followed, the park gained 4 non-IP attractions: the 2 carnival rides that could be found in Dinoland, Kali River Rapids, and the aforementioned Expedition Everest. All other shows and attractions, no matter how good they might have been, were based on an IP in some way. Which I think shows that just because an attraction has an original storyline doesn't make it automatically good, and IPs aren't inherently harmful when used sparingly. Chester and Hester's Dinorama has been widely maligned as Walt Disney World's worst land due to its intentionally cheap roadshow carnival aesthetic. And I love Dr. Seeker's Wild Ride as much as the next guy, #NotOurDino, but Eisner even had an IP shoved into it to promote the largely forgotten 2000s animated film. Given, the references are thankfully minor, but I bet if you asked anyone in line who Aladar is, you'll probably be met with blank stares. All this to say, Animal Kingdom has always presented a mashup between hyper-realized, heavily researched, authentic experiences and corporate cost-cutting synergy. I think this combination of ideologies works best when Disney uses its properties as a gateway to teach guests about the natural world, as seen in the Up, a Great Bird Adventure show, Rafiki's Planet Watch, and perhaps surprisingly, Pandora. I fully believe that Disney management didn't care about Animal Kingdom's values when they first announced the Avatar expansion. But Rohde and his team made sure to combine the park's message with the core themes of James Cameron's film, and the land is much better for it.
The value system that underlies the story of Avatar and the value system that underlie Animal Kingdom are pretty much the same.
There is an intrinsic value of nature.
How do we conserve this habitat and bring back habitat that's been disturbed by people?
It wasn't just going to be about action and conflict. We were going to move past that. We're here long after the war between the humans and the Na'vi has ended. It's a time of peace.
We see nature resurgent, coming back everywhere.
This is a real ecosystem.
It is a chance to have your own adventures on Pandora.
And while reforestation or keystone species may not be the main takeaway for most of the guests who ride Flight of Passage, it elevates the experience beyond a basic theme park ride and helps unite the land with the rest of the park. Which brings us to Zootopia. In terms of the film itself, your mileage may vary, but I thought it was surprisingly creative and fun, and offered something for everyone, adults, children, and furries alike. Since its release, there has been some debate regarding its message and themes, and I will be the first to admit that I don't have enough knowledge or first-hand experience to speak with authority on that subject. But I can certainly understand why its inclusion may give people pause. As for why Disney would want to build Zootopia and Animal Kingdom, I think their decision rests on several major factors. In terms of the other parks, the film wouldn't thematically fit within Epcot at all, and it would only tenuously work for Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom, in the way that it's a movie and those parks also feature film-inspired attractions. Which leaves Animal Kingdom. Rohde himself has spoken about Zootopia's inclusion, and brings up a great point that the film uses animals as an allegory for modern human society and race relations, which is definitely not in line with the park's message. Secondly, while its attraction lineup has only improved over time, Animal Kingdom still lacks family-focused attractions. Us theme park enthusiasts may scoff at the thought, but the hard truth is we're not the company's target demographic. And Animal Kingdom features a lot of attractions with height requirements. If it helps, even Rohde mentioned his belief that the park needs more attractions aimed exclusively at children, and both Zootopia and Moana are family-friendly properties. I don't know why Disney won't just commit to a Lion King attraction since it's clear that franchise is still a money-making machine, but if they haven't done so yet, I doubt they will anytime soon. Rumors have suggested both Wakanda and Kumandra as possible expansions, but there's nothing in Black Panther that warrants its inclusion, outside of having animals and taking place in Africa, which, big yikes if that's your reasoning. and Raya is a whole can of worms that I'm not even going to touch right now. Frankly speaking, the one modern franchise that could 100% within the park is Disney Nature and the Nat Geo section of Disney+. But be honest, how many of us have actually watched any of those films or series, and what attractions could they yield that aren't already in the park? Though, now that I mention it, I do think the park is severely lacking in proper Jeff Goldblum representation. So, does Zootopia thematically fit in Animal Kingdom? No. But, when given the other options, it seems to be one of the more financially safe choices, since it's clear Disney isn't interested in building an original attraction or land anytime soon. And for Disney, if there's one thing that'll always trump theming, it's profit. Assuming Dinosaur will be reworked into the land's main attraction, the company can save a ton of money on its makeover since the ride system and building already exist. As for the rest of the land, they can just duplicate the models from the Shanghai version, saving on design and construction costs like they did with Galaxy's Edge. Personally, I almost always prefer original attractions over IP-based ones. But I do get why Disney has been lately focusing on the latter, as they're pretty much guaranteed moneymakers. Zootopia remains Disney's 8th highest grossing film of all time, just above the original Lion King. Not only do IPs bring in a pre-established fan base and merchandise opportunities, the company's previous attempts to step away from their branding, as seen with early Epcot and DCA, were met with outcries of there isn't enough Disney in this Disney theme park. And while these ideas don't have the creative timelessness of, say, Pirates of the Caribbean or the Haunted Mansion, Disney seems more interested in short-term profit over lasting ingenuity. I can at least view IPs with a substantial creative or educational element like Pandora as sort of a chaotic good. Zootopia provides enough of a thematic foundation that, after setting aside its more anthropomorphic plot points, can provide a decent template for some classic edutainment. While the land's e-ticket is almost certainly going to be style over substance, a supplemental gondola or train ride exploring the film's different districts, while providing facts about each biome, could theoretically justify the land's existence in the park, even if that justification is still very flimsy. I'm going to reserve final judgment on this announcement until it becomes more realized, which means this was probably a lot of talk for something that's unlikely to even happen. But I think the questions it raises are worth exploring and can help us better understand the true artistic value and intent of theme parks. Though no matter what comes to pass, if this announcement proves anything, it's that, when it comes to the blue sky process, Disney is willing to try everything. Thanks for watching, everyone. I've had a lot of thoughts since Sunday's announcement and figured this was the best way for me to express them. Do you think Zootopia belongs in Animal Kingdom? Or is there another property or idea that you would rather see built instead? And while I wanted to get this video out while it was still relevant, the rest of my schedule remains unchanged, with the first half of my Epcot music series coming out in the next week or so. As always, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you all a little later.